Welcome to our online talk on digital learning. My name is Silvia Schmid and I will be your host today. This is an online talk series on doing research in Germany. Today we are going to focus on digital learning and speak with our experts on current developments in this area in Germany. I would also like to draw your attention to our upcoming online talks. Tomorrow we will talk about global health research. On Wednesday, we will have a closer look at interdisciplinary research. And on Friday, our experts will provide practical tips on planning your research career in Germany. Now I would like to introduce our panel today. Dr. Christian Weber comes from the University of Siegen, and he is a postdoc at the Faculty of Knowledge-Based Systems and Knowledge Management. He also is project coordinator of a project called Uduvers, which he will describe later on. Dr. Weber did his PhD in Budapest at the Corvinus University and also was granted the Marie Curie Early Research Scholarship. His research interests are lying in the fields of data mining and machine learning, semantic technologies, technology-enhanced learning, cyber-physical systems, and Industry 4.0 applications. From the University of Paderborn, we have two guests. Professor Michael Hofmann is professor at the Institute for German Language and Comparative Literature, and he's also project leader of a DAAD-funded project which is named International Digital Research Training Group Paderborn, Europe, Africa. His colleague, Dr. Sven Schulte-Eickholt, is research associate at the Institute for German Language and Comparative Literature, and he coordinates this project. A little bit about the DAAD program, which funds this project. This DAAD program is called International Virtual Academic Collaboration, or IVAC. And the DAAD wishes to provide practical support for instructors, but also strategic support to universities with the aim of developing and expanding international higher education partnerships and worldwide mobility by tapping into digital possibilities. Our panel is completed by Rasmus Benke-Aberg. He is Program Manager for International and European Cooperation at the Hochschulforum Digitalisierung, which can be translated with Higher Education Forum of Digitalisation in Germany. The Hochschulforum Digitalisierung orchestrates the discourse on higher education in the digital age. And as a central initiator, it informs, advises, and networks actors from universities, politics, business, and society. If you are watching live today and want to ask us a question, please be so kind to use the panel on the side of the screen to ask your questions. You will only be able to ask a question in this way. We will try to answer your questions on the go, so just put them in the chat. As a warm-up and before we start, I would like to ask our audience a question. What is your current career stage? Are you an undergraduate, a graduate, a PhD student, a postdoc, or are you in any other career stage at the moment? And your answers will show us for which career stage you are currently preparing. There are already a lot of answers. I think it's rather stable now. So thank you very much for your answers. So many of you are graduates, hopefully preparing for a PhD, or already PhD students, maybe thinking about a postdoc positions, and also some people from other career stages. It's very interesting for us and also certainly for our panel. Thank you very much. So now let's start our discussion. We would like to start with some questions about technologies and methods. And Mr. Benke-Aberg by Hochschulforum Digitalisierung, I would like to ask you, first of all, how digitalized are doctoral studies and international research cooperations in Germany, and what advice do you give to your members of the Higher Education Forum?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you. It's very nice to be here. It's nice to see so many hopefully future researchers in Germany here on the chat. As just a little introduction to how it is to live in Germany, I'm also from another country. I'm from Sweden originally. I hope you noticed that the session started at 2 p.m. 2.0000. It's very, very punctual. So if you come to Germany and study here, note that punctuality is just as important as we think it is in Germany. But okay, to answer the question. So the question about how digitalized the German institutions are when it comes to research, not only research, but when it comes to cooperation in general, international cooperation, the answer is that it's very diverse, and it's hard to say that it's exactly like this in all the different institutions because it varies a lot from place to place. But what I can tell you is something about the general trend. And the general trend is absolutely very much going towards more digitalization. A couple of examples. One is, of course, I mean, as I'm sure you can understand very well, the Corona situation. Before that, German universities was rather not digitalized. We have made some research on this where we asked the German universities, and only 14% of the German universities or institutions, Hochschulen, they had any kind of digitalization strategy before Corona. Now, almost everyone, and almost everyone agreed that how they did things with regards to digitalization changed a lot during or after the Corona pandemic, which I'm sure you think makes a lot of sense. Also, I think that if we look on the broader picture, not only at the institutions, but in Germany in general, digitalization is a super hot topic. You know, there was a German election not so long ago, and just a few weeks ago, was it even last week or 2 weeks ago, the three parties that will soon govern Germany, they came up with this Koalitionsvertrag, the coalition agreement, where they wrote how they want to what they want to do with Germany in the coming 4 years. And this Vertrag had a lot of different things that have nothing to do with what we do, but it was very clear that digitalization is a very, very important topic that goes through all the different parts of what they want to do also in other sectors. And indeed, it was also explicitly mentioned about the digitalization. So we have from the very, very top political level, we have a very strong will to digitalize things in all German society, including in education. We have individual universities that are also very, very willing and who have realized the importance during the last 2 years that it is important to digitalize, and this is something that I think we will see a lot more in the coming years. Maybe one note also about the distance learning or distance teaching. This is also something that is of course very difficult to say, but before the Corona pandemic happened, face-to-face teaching, learning, this was really the norm. It was not the only one, but it was quite unusual with online learning. This has changed, of course, but it did not only change during the pandemic, and now everyone is going to go back and everything will be as it was. Now and again, I must say it will vary from university to university, but what I think and what we kind of have the feeling about in Hochschulforum Digitalisierung is that in the future there will be crystallizing some kind of blended or hybrid version where it will be possible to do both face-to-face teaching. There are some things that really that are better if they're done at the same place together, but there will also be opportunities for online learning. So some kind of hybrid model, I think, will come out in the coming couple of years. Exactly how, very difficult to say. Yeah, I hope I answered the questions. So thank you very much. Otherwise, I'm here ready to answer more.
Yeah, thank you very much for your instruction and for your insights on a general point of view. Maybe you could explain a little bit more what are your members at the Hochschulforum Digitalisierung? How do you cooperate among each other? Maybe you could explain a little bit your work with the German higher institutions, higher education institutions in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are an organization and we are, yeah, it was mentioned in the beginning here in the introduction that we are orchestrating the discourse on digital higher education. That sounds maybe a bit fluffy. What we really try to do is to support the Hochschulen, the German higher education institutions, to support them in their transition to digitalization. So this we do by bringing together the different parts of the universities, so the leadership, the students, the Verwaltungspersonal, the administration staff, and also the researchers and the teachers. And we can try to provide a platform for them to meet with each other, and we have different programs for that. I'll mention a few in a second. But we think that having a platform where these different groups can meet and they can, well, maybe not meet physically these days, but where they can meet each other and learn from each other, that's the best support that we can give. So really trying to create a community of those who are interested in digital learning. That's the most important what we do. And just a few things. One, we have the HFD CERT, like certification. You can just Google it, HFD CERT, HFD CERT, where it's a platform for cooperation for researchers or teachers in higher education that want to improve the way they do things related to digital learning. So it's a tool where they can upload what they have created, maybe new learning material, maybe new ways of doing things. Then there's a feedback loop, so you can give peer-to-peer feedback and then hopefully improve it. You know, other researchers can say, this was a good idea, but maybe you should change this. And then you can, yeah, so it's a collaborative tool, and then you can get a certification for what you have done, and then you can, you know, share it on LinkedIn or whatever. We also have a community on Mattermost. It's a tool. It's a kind of an open source version of Slack. Maybe many of you know Slack already, but it's a tool for, yeah, for anyone working at a German higher education institute, where we can quickly chat with each other. This sounds maybe not so advanced, but then there are different channels, and those who are interested in one topic can discuss with each other, and those who are interested in another can create a new channel, and so on. And then we have a general channel with like 3,000 participants where people can join and talk to each other. And then a last thing we do, which is very important, this is less about community building, but more in general. We produce different types of research and reports and studies and so on topics related to digitalization. If you go to our website, hochschuldigitalisierung.de/Publikationen, so publications in German, there you can see a lot of different reports we have done on topics related to, you know, what happened with the German universities in the corona pandemic, what are good examples of digitalization, what are bad examples of digitalization, how can we understand what's happening, and so on. I must say many of these are in German, but some of them are as well in English. So please feel free to check that out. And yeah, these are some of the things that we do to try to, again, try to support the German institutions in their transition to more or better digitalization.
Yeah, thank you very much for these insights. I think it's extremely interesting to hear that it's a forum where not only university personnel, professors, administrative personnel, but also the students are an important part of that process, and that you are developing all these things, all these solutions together with the students and with the learners.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of years ago, I used to work myself for a student organization. I think that this having students on board is quite important, and I think that if you talk about the stakeholders at the university, again, leadership, researchers, teachers, so on, the students, they are a very important part of this. And most important program in that field is called the Digital Change Makers. You can also Google that, Digital Change Makers, Hochschule Forum Digitalisation, and we have different activities for them as well. So indeed, I think all these target groups are very important when it comes to digitalization at higher education institutions.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to continue with the topic of digital learning technologies, and would like to ask Dr. Weber, because your research is about technologies that are needed to implement digital learning. We already received some questions with the registration, and for example, our participants wanted to know what are the different types and methods of digital learning, and how can we increase engagement in digital learning? Maybe you would like to talk a little bit about these two topics?
Sure, yes. That's a tricky question. Let me first of all say that I'm also a member of the Marie Curie Alumni Association. So I'm also, let's say, follow-up on mobility in the European sector, and I'm responsible for research funding there. So if there is anything in that direction, I'm also happy to answer. And I want to say hi because I saw that there are also students from Al-Quds University from Palestine. We are also running a large-scale education project with them. So it's very nice to see that we are truly international here. And towards the question of technology-enhanced learning and technologies, it's a tricky one because there is no good answer for that. There are many formats, and they are for a reason, because you know how learning is really truly working. It is not fully explored. So what the market is currently doing is we are having many different solutions. And the reason for that is also that learning always works best, because you asked about motivation and engagement, if it somehow connects to your past experience. And because we usually don't know what is your past experience, it is really a bit like guessing and tailoring to an audience. So much more than the question, what is there, is it tailored to me? And there are like two different answers for that. One of that is that now technology-enhanced learning or digital learning is so widespread that for every area, we now have tailored solutions. So if you're from the domain of medicine or the domain of education, or whatever domain you have, you can find a solution online, which is somehow connecting to you. And the other part is that solutions are becoming more and more personalized. And that is the area I'm working on in the direction of technology-enhanced learning and educational recommender systems. So the platforms, and that is really the true new age, and this is also what the German government is right now pushing with large AI initiatives for learning, is that the platform will listen to you for a while and hear what are your needs, and then adjust the learning to your specific needs. And that creates then the probably need engagement, because it somehow connects to your past experience. And that is probably the trick of it. That's what's the question.
This is really fascinating. So it goes really a little bit in simulating what a good teacher does. So feeling how what students need at the moment and giving them the material that is especially tailored for them.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also the point where I'm very happy that the previous speaker mentioned that there are programs which include mentors. So technology becomes alive if it's either about your experience or if there is a person in the loop. And somehow we have to find ways, and this is the good news, we are now moving, everyone is developing. We have to find ways to get the teachers also into systems. And we now see the rise, or we have seen the rise of MOOCs, large-scale online courses. And they truly connect to you if the teachers are properly involved. So the more teacher is in the loop, the better it works.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I would like to shift the focus a little bit on international collaboration. And for this, we invited our two guests from University of Paderborn. You have increased the engagement in digital learning in your digital program for PhD candidates from Africa, which I've mentioned very briefly in my introduction. Professor Hofmann, could you please tell us more about this project and what led you to the decision to start this project?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Corona was our great crisis in the contacts with Africa. We have had very good programs with Sub-Sahara Africa, with Cameroon, Togo, and Kenya. And as many others, we noticed one day that the contacts were over, personal contacts were no more possible. And so we started to think, and we found very many things we could do. For example, colloquiums with master students and PhD students in a digital way, and meetings between master students and PhD students. And we also started with doctoral seminars chaired by professors in Germany and West Africa. So we saw many possibilities of keeping contact, and we started things we would never have had imagined 2 years ago. I would say cultural studies depend on personal contact, and this will not be over with all the digital programs. But we see that the digital programs can help us a lot to have more contacts, and also to show to people who are in Africa what is possible to do in Germany. This could also be a thing to help to prepare the demands for scholarships in Germany, and to get more persons interested in these things. So the IVEC program you mentioned is a possibility for us to learn about more opportunities and more possibilities in this area. And we are sure that we can intensify our contacts with Africa, and so the close to close operation with digital and personal learning will change our way of teaching in a very interesting way.
Thank you very much. So you think that digital programs are a good way to maybe intensify a little bit the preparation for actual physical stay later on, for example, and deepen.
Yeah, for example, you can take the example. I go to let's say to Tunisia or to Cameroon for 2 weeks, and I do my conferences and all that. And it's the students, the PhD students I meet are not so well prepared. They hear my talk, and I hope they are satisfied. But it's not so intensive, and I can prepare this now in a completely different way. They get materials, digital materials, that they are introduced into things I will discuss, and we can when I'm there for some days, we can engage very intensive discussions about the topic. I need not introduce the topic from the beginning. This can be prepared in a digital way, and I think this can really help us in our cooperation.
So you can start at another point in your discourse. Dr. Schulte-Eickholt, you are the coordinator of that project. Maybe we could go a little bit deeper into the question of technology again. How did you decide what technology and what methods would be best to implement, especially in this project with your doctoral students from Africa?
Yeah, thank a lot too to be invited here. And I think we had an idea that we would need a lot of asynchronous tools to work together with our partners in different languages with very different situations they had, especially their possibility for online access. We realized was a problem because there was vast differences. Some partners really had a stable and good internet connectivity, others didn't. So we're in a process of rethinking what we can offer and what doesn't work so well. But we're strongly trying to integrate the infrastructure of digital learning we're having on the university, which means in the first place we have a Moodle-based learning environment, and we can add in a lot of tools and plugins that the students and PhD students can use in our partner universities, which means especially we can also integrate a lot of texts and ebooks from our from the university that give our partners the opportunity to connect with all the other partners. So that's the thing we couldn't do so far. We were going to Tunisia or we're going to Cameroon, but now we can meet in a digital space where these partners also meet, and we can have a strong connection between all our partners and share ideas and results of the topics that we are researching at the very moment. This is literature studies, so we had to choose a different range of tools that allow us in the first place to meet in a digital space, which is meeting tools like Zoom or Big Blue Button, but that turned out to be very, well, problematic for some partners because they couldn't get the proper connectivity to make a longer online meeting. So we had to integrate very strongly asynchronous tools to give them the possibility to chat or to exchange text and information of that type. Is that question answered, or do you have a specific question?
No, thank you very much. So you adapted your tools to the environment of your partners, not only when it comes to connectivity, but also you integrated the tools that your partners already were using, right?
Yes, the tools that we had tried to implement on the sources we already had on the university. What we're doing at the very moment is we're building up a homepage, and every partner can participate in that homepage and share their researchers with us, and we are producing some kind of podcast and a blog where everyone can write about their specific topics and be more visible maybe in the networks that we're trying to establish. That's what we are facing, is a lot of problems with data privacy protection, and that's maybe in Germany even stronger than in other foreign countries, because we have a whole
the level is high in Europe when it comes to data protection.
Always takes a long time to secure that we can really give that information, that we're allowed to share specific information. So that's a bigger problem than we thought it would be, but I think we are trying to getting along with that too.
Thank you very much. Yeah, data protection certainly is an issue in all digital projects with German and European partners. It's always good to mention. We already have a yeah, Professor Hofmann?
Yeah, I would say,
yeah,
in the Corona situation, we learned that more things are possible than we had imagined before. For example, we had doctorate examinations, which until 2020 were not permitted at Paderborn University. And alone in this year, in my chair, we had three examinations in cooperation with Togo, and which were accepted by the university.
So digital in a digital form.
Yeah. So and this is a very great step for our cooperation, because we can cooperate with the colleagues from Togo, and they don't need to come every time to us to be present at the Paderborn University for the examinations we do together. So I think there are many also technical problems, as Sven Schulte-Eickholt said, but more things are possible than we had imagined.
That's good to hear and good to know. Professor Hofmann, we already have a question by our participants. Maybe you could try to answer it. by
Yeah.
Christian Mendes. What are the
Yeah.
possibilities of being part of a research network on your subject with a university from Latin America?
I think this could be one of the advantages, that it would be easy to get in contact with other colleagues and other universities, also from other continents. It could be easy. If I get the contact, I would be very interested also to cooperate with Latin America. Would be great.
Wonderful, good news. So to all the other participants, please feel invited to ask your questions in the chat. I think, yeah, we have prepared some questions about the German policy on digital learning in general, but I think, Mr. Benke-Aberg, you told a little bit already at the beginning about the general education policy in Germany on digital learning, that with our new government that will start to work in a few days, that they have high aims for digitalization. Maybe you could also tell a little bit more, because maybe not everybody of our audience knows that yeah, education questions are there are many different points where education policy is made in Germany, not only on the federal level, but also on a sub-level, which is federal state level. So what do you think are, when you do not only think about the momentary situation, which is very hopeful, what is your impression, and what are you discussing with your members at the Hochschulforum Digitalisierung?
Yeah, thank you. This is absolutely a very good point to point out, that in Germany there are 16 Bundesländer, so states, federal states, and education policy lies among them. So I'm in Berlin right now, very close to the Humboldt University, which might do things one way. If I jump on a train and go to Potsdam University, which is 20 minutes away by train, maybe 30, then there might be a completely different governing rules there. There are some things that are all over Germany, things that have to do with accreditation and so on. They are still decided on by the German level. But indeed, there are 16 different ways of doing things and 16 different rules, and that makes it even more difficult to say anything about how it is everywhere. But again, going back to what I said in the beginning about the trend, that the trend looks good. And when it comes to these things that I mentioned in the Koalitionsvertrag, in the coalition agreement, these are also things that have to do with things like putting more money into improving the infrastructure, for example. So the digital infrastructure in Germany is pretty good. It's not fantastic, but it's much better than actually in most other countries. And in the coming years, if you look again at the trend, I think there will be more money available for those kind of things. And yeah, indeed, even though there are different rules, I think that these general trends going towards more digitalization, more cooperation internationally, more hybrid learning, so both at home and both also at the university. These things I think will be most certainly in all of the 16 Bundesländer. But then I can also mention another thing that is about the German education policy or education policies is the international dimension, that Germany is very interested, and this, our colleagues here in the ADE, they surely know this very well, that there is a great interest from Germany to cooperate with other parts of the world, including in Europe. So I used to work in Brussels for some years, and there, every time you go to a conference about something related to education, of course the German representatives are there and they're very engaged, they're very interested in this, and it did right. I think our colleagues from DAD are probably very happy. I think it mentioned in the coalition agreement explicitly there will be more money for DAD in the coming years, so that's congratulations to you.
Yeah.
No, so
thank you very much. We're very happy about that.
So there are indeed, there's a big willingness from the German side to cooperate with other countries. And one of you mentioned here also these, I think on the chat, that there's some funding programs available. This IVAC is International Virtual Academic Cooperation. That's one of them. But there are other different programs, different initiatives, different projects that have to do with digitalization, where Germany tries to cooperate also with other, well, German universities cooperate with other universities in other parts of Europe or the world, but also where Germany cooperates with other countries and with Europe. And then I think I also like to go back to what one of you, the other panelists, said about how quickly things changed. That you mentioned, digital examination. Wow, you can do that all of a sudden. Yeah, that's a very good example, that this is something everyone thought, oh, it has to be done this way. But then all of a sudden, there was really no other alternative. Like, it couldn't be done anyway. And then things changed very quickly. And my organization, Hochschule from Digitalisation, we had a community working group working on this. We wrote a big paper, it's like 170 pages long or something like this, where we went through how this was done in Germany and also in Austria and Switzerland, so the German-speaking community. And it's very, very interesting to see. There were so many innovative ways of doing things. The topic is very difficult because it needs to be, cheating proof, like you have to make sure that there's no cheating, but you also have to kind of respect the privacy of the students, and you have to make sure that the rules are followed and the deadlines and everything. Like, it's quite complicated, but still there were a lot of great initiatives that came out of there. And I think that this will also continue in the coming years, even if hopefully at some point the corona situation will look better. And I think that these things, allowing more things to be done online in different innovative ways, will most likely be there also in the coming years. What else? Did I answer the question or not? I hope so.
I think yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, certainly the pandemic situation was some kind of innovation driver in Germany. As you also said, Professor Hofmann, to speed up some decision processes. It was very interesting to see. I see that we have another question by our participants. Zuhal Kurt would like to know, could you give us some information about the postdoc researcher positions? Maybe Dr. Weber, would you like to start? Maybe Professor Hofmann, you could continue. What are in your institutions possibilities for postdoc research positions?
Yeah, I'm wondering on the question if it's more about the culture of postdocs or the availability of postdoc positions in the speakers' institutions. So I can let's answer both. Right now,
yeah, I think both
I
parts
already
are
posted a link to our job portal, so you can check. Right now in my institution and the partner institutions, we don't have a postdoc position open. We may open one next year, but we're checking on that right now. Culturally, because I went through mobility, I mean, postdoc position is always about becoming your own master in a way and becoming known in the research society. And I have the impression that in Germany we have a wide range of different cultures on that front. On one hand, there is a strong need for integration with the professor because we are much more, let's say, connected to our professors. One professor has usually up to a very large team of 10 till 50 members. And there is really an area of thinking, a line of thinking you can align to. And that means that it colors your research. It also creates interesting topics, but it also is a kind of lane you can walk through. But there's always the expectation that you become quite self-sufficient in the end. The careers for postdocs, officially it's 6 years, but it can actually take much longer. But depending on your research capabilities, it can be also shorter. We are now switching, that's last stuff I'm telling about it, we are switching to, let's say a kind of a mid-range position. So If you're in other countries, you usually have the assistant professor and the associate professor, and in Germany, what you have is a junior professorship. So usually you're a PhD, then you're a postdoc. And if you want to become closer to being a professor, you can be a junior professor. And we are now developing largely tenure-track professorships. We had 1,000 professorships like that in the last 2 years. And it's extending. So we really want to have our postdocs becoming junior professors who then, without fail, becoming real professors. Those are the opportunities.
Yeah, thank you very much for these very interesting insights. My colleague just posted a link into the chat. Maybe you have seen it already. We have a brochure, research careers in Germany, a guide to international postdocs and experienced researchers. You can check this. And also, Professor Hofmann, I would like to ask you if you would like to add something.
Yeah, I would say in the concerning the international cooperation in the postdoc field, if I may say this with the DARD manifestation here, it is the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation who who offers scholarships, very good funded scholarships for postdocs for excellent researchers. And we have had in Paderborn two or three of them at my chair. And this cooperation is very fruitful for both sides.
Yeah. I'm just, my colleague already posted that link, yeah. Yeah, we're here, of course, I'm working at the DAD, but our initiative Research in Germany is representing the whole research landscape in Germany. And because of this, Alexander from Homeworld Foundation is a very important part for researchers from all over the world who want to come to Germany, do their research here. So for all of you that are postdocs or soon to be postdocs, please check out Alexander von Humboldt website for their funding possibilities. Okay, so let's continue a little bit with the topic about digital learning versus classroom learning. Professor Hofmann and Dr. Schulke-Eickholt, you are representing the humanities here today. Do you think that digital learning will be even more effective in the future? And can it maybe even replace traditional ways of learning sometimes when you're imagining a little bit technology? So it also about technology and but about mindset and about engagement, cooperation, all these factors.
If I may start, I will. Oh, Sven, okay.
Thank you. So then I might start. We don't think there's a versus between traditional and digital learning environments because our university, of course, is trying hard to enhance the digital infrastructure and to create a more and more digital things that you could use. We at the moment we're trying to award an e-learning label for courses. So, but most of these are flipped classrooms concepts. So you have parts the digital learning environment and parts are taking place in the classroom as it had been all the time. And this is the strategy we are having, and I think that's the strategy that we can see in most of the universities, that we're not trying to replace traditional courses by digital courses, but to really enhance them with some digital tools that we can use. There might be some undergraduate courses or maybe some videos that you could use to replace some of the traditional classroom teaching, but in the first place it's not a replacement but that's I think that's the same with all the mediums that we had, with videos that we could use, or with books in the first place. So it's always an additional possibility that you can use and that you have to find out how to use it, but it's not really a replacement of the face-to-face conversation. That's, I think everyone can share this experience over the last 2 years, where we had a lot of digital meetings and online teachings, that we lose a lot if we don't have the traditional face-to-face classroom education, and it's also very exhausting if you're a lot in the digital environments and you have this feeling you have to be there like 24/7 and there's no pause to it and no breaks, especially when you're using a lot of asynchronous tools, and if you are sharing a lot of information not in a face-to-face situation. So the strategy at our university, and maybe especially in the humanities, but I don't really think that, is that we just append traditional teaching with traditional teaching with digital tools, and there's no versus between these two sides. But I think what everyone realized was that there's a wide range for innovation at the very moment, so everyone can try to take part in this very new development, and I think every new idea is welcome, and we're trying to find new ways of teaching now very strongly. And now, of course, Michael Hofmann can say something as well.
No, Sven, you said all the important things I wanted to say. Well, thank you very much. There's one thing that I wanted to say. We made the experience. It is digital formats are very good for keeping a contact that is already established. But to make a new contact, it is really we notice it is really more difficult. So personal contact is really important for getting in touch with someone. For example, we made the experience understanding irony in a conversation is more difficult in a digital way than in a personal way. So, but I think we should try to convince our colleagues in the humanities that digital learning does not replace face-to-face learning, but it can be a very good help, and it can even improve in a very good way the methods of teaching we have until now.
Thank you very much. So digital tools are enhancing learning already, and will do it even more in the future, but never can replace really quality physical contact, I would say. Dr. Weber, when you think about natural sciences or engineering, would you say that it's the same for these subject groups, or do you see it a little bit differently when you're thinking about learning in natural sciences or other MINT STEM subjects?
Yeah, that's a good question. Indeed, it changes in the different domains. So general, there is kind of top-down learning where you have to understand the generals first so that the specifics make sense. And there's some areas where bottom-up learning works very well. So you can train on single topics, and then afterwards you see the bigger picture. And especially in the natural science, it is easier to, let's say, learn what a specific part, for example, of physics is doing, to then understand the bigger picture. So digital platforms are actually much more suitable. And I'm saying more, I'm not saying replacing the teacher, much more suitable to teach larger parts of the education. But you still need the teacher to connect all of the dots. And that is really what blended learning is. So between the digital space and the physical space, that's what we are doing. There is, by the way, a large new development for all the areas. And we now have to push in Germany, but also around the world, for creating so-called meta platforms. So you can register on this platform and that platform. And there are many opportunities, but this learner mobility and mobility of your profile is usually not given. And we now see large-scale funding towards that to establish formats which makes it easier to move from one platform to another and to take your certificates with you. So in the future, I expect in the next 5 years to have the first solutions to move from one area to another. So maybe you're doing micro-learning somewhere where you're really specialized in some tasks, or you're learning a complete field using MOOCs or similar platforms. And then the big picture comes also together because, you know, your education from left and right comes together in your profile. And that makes it easier for the trainers to understand your background and also for the platforms to help you out. I have big hopes that that makes actually a lot better.
And also this would maybe make it easier for international students to combine their learning at home and abroad, maybe in Germany. Maybe you could say a little bit more about the international dimensions of such platforms?
Yeah, indeed, the development will boost it because as soon as something is digital, it's a bit easier to translate it. But translation has two dimensions. It's the language, but it's also, let's say, the level of education. So if I'm learning cooking and I tell someone I'm learning cooking, then it can be 20 different things. And even afterwards, it can become more detailed. So on the European level, we have, for example, the ESCO corpus of jobs, which splits down a job into specific skills and competencies. And the more we can dive down what skills and competencies are, the more comparable we become. That's actually a large problem all around the world internationally, but it's also something specific to the European Union because we have here job and border flexibility. That also means it has to become easier to recognize a job in another country. So in this period of friction, we actually make it also easier for international students to join us, from wherever they are coming.
There are very interesting possibilities. I just checked out again our chat. So our talk some minutes ago about junior professorships. Professor Hofmann, would you like to add something?
Yeah, one practical thing could be it is a very important step to try to get a grant, for example, for PhD in Germany. And we could help in digital ways for preparing this. So our colloquiums for PhD students, where we discuss doctoral projects, and the people concerned they can improve their expose for the PhD grants, and their chances will be better to get this. Their project is more better based on the actual discussion in cultural studies in our field.
Thank you very much. I just checked out again the questions that were coming in. So there is a rather practical question by Lisbeth Bolaños from Portugal. And she's also involved in teaching activities for the first time, as many of other participants. And she is asking rather practically, would you suggest any tools or a specific strategy for planning and organizing teaching activities when you have to start with it? Especially also when it comes to engaging students and allow interactions. I would like to invite any of you, maybe you give me a sign who wants to start with some practical hints, tips.
Perhaps I can say one thing. The experience that we made that sometimes we have a digital thing with 20 persons, and there are 2 professors in it. The younger persons don't dare to speak themselves. So we started the possibility of meeting without professors, without postdocs, and this could perhaps also help this question. So it should be a sort of the group should be structured in a way that hierarchical problems should not be too important. I think this is quite an important thing, and digital experience can also help against these problems of hierarchy. I think this could be an important help, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a good point, interesting point. Yeah, certainly. Please.
Yes, on the first hand, it's not so very much different if you're in a Zoom meeting, if you're teaching or in a classroom. There are a lot of things you have to consider are very close to traditional learning as well. So your teaching isn't better when you're using a lot of digital or online tools. It's always, in the first place, thinking about what teaching goals do you have, what learning group do you have, and how do you want to interact with them. What we're realizing is that if you are, like Michael Hofmann said, if you're having no personal connecting to the people, but you're just meeting online, then it stays much more anonymous. So like in this talk, here are 78 participants at the very moment, and I'm not seeing anyone, so they're all invisible. And that's a problem that you might have in this digital learning environment. And the first step would be to use the tools that like software like Zoom or Big No Button gives you. That would be possibilities to split the learning group with breakout rooms, so that you don't have to face the problems Michael Hofmann said, that they are afraid of talking maybe to a big group that they don't really know. So if you would split that group in 5 or 7 groups, then they just have little talks with 4 or 5 persons involved. And then you can get back together in a big group and talk again about the same topic, and you'll have a much wider discussion with more people that want to take part in it. That's some of the experience we made, and that it's not so very important to use a very wide range of tools, but to really think about how to use them, and that it would be helpful to append your teaching with participants can write like we have here in a chat. That's a possibility, or they can write even before the meeting starts. They can formulate certain ideas they have about the text that are to be discussed, or that they make a little presentation that they can upload then on a specific cloud-based system. And I think in every German university we have this cloud system SIBO, which gives us the possibility to share big data and or very like videos and other data that are just very big, and that are possibilities you have on using digital tools. But for everyone who's partaking in this digital environment, I think it's very important that you have a lot of your own initiation, or your own initiative is very important. So because you're more invisible in this setting, so everyone has to take part, and that doesn't just mean the teacher have to involve a very broad range of tools, but also the participants have to take care of their own initiative and become visible in a way, in all these ways that are given to them.
Yeah, thank you very much. So to sum it up a little bit, actually I was a classroom teacher a few years ago also. So the traditional instruments in engaging your students, like group work, giving them some tasks that where they have to create their own content, like presentations. This is also possible online. You do not have to need very complicated tools, but you can take your favorite tools from the classroom and or methods from the classroom, and try to move it into the digital sphere for engagement and motivation. There is a last very interesting question that I would like to give to all of you before we close that session, because Ismail Ali is asking us, how can researchers with special needs like visual disability make good use or access digital platforms and carry out research? Do you have maybe some special information about tools that are especially good for people with visual disabilities? What I was thinking about is not digital, but I know that in Germany there is one university that is specialized for students with visible disabilities, and this is University of Marburg in Germany. But as our topic today is digital learning, maybe you could add something about the digital aspect.
Sorry.
I have a similar problem. The field is quite big, so even if we are experts here, we cannot cover it all. Perhaps an observation I had from Germany, because this is also about mobility to Germany. From my experience throughout my studies, several times I have seen people with disability with support personnel. So in Germany, it is really possible that you can do your education, maybe on master or PhD level, with having support, because we have good social system. I don't want to say that bluntly, but there are opportunities. So the universities are ready to support you to bridge the gap. And even if it's not about digital platforms, you can be supported.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a very good point that you're making, Dr. Weber. As we are now already a little bit late, I would still like to give you the chance for some conclusions. And I would like to wrap up our discussion. So I would like to ask all our four panelists, what is your take-home message for our audience? And I would now just call you in the, as I see you on my screen, Professor Hofmann. What is your take-home message for our audience?
I would just, thank you. I would just encourage all who are interested to use the digital possibilities and to come in touch with us and with other German scholars, and making contacts with digital formats is a good chance to come in touch with us, and we will be glad to cooperate with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Weber?
Yes. From the perspective of digital learning and artificial intelligence, be open and be kind to yourself. So there are many different platforms. We have no clue yet how learning is working in each of the bits and bobs. So if the platform doesn't work for you, go and check another one. And if it's about mobility, and there are always support networks locally. We have a lot of freedom, so be proud and be brave and ask. Even at a mid-sized university, for us here, we have roundtables and so many solutions to get you in touch. So don't be alone. Mobility is for everyone.
Thank you very much. Very encouraging. Mr. Binke-Aberg, please.
Yeah, again, very nice to see all the interest here. So many questions on the chat, so many people who are interested in coming to Germany. That's really, really nice. My take-home message would also be, yes, indeed, the digitalization is going forward very quickly in Germany and will probably go even quicker in the coming couple of years. I do hope that you consider the possibilities of coming and doing your research in Germany. If you do, I hope you will join our community. Indeed, as some of the panelists mentioned, digital learning can be a great complement to physical learning, not a substitute. I don't think we're going to, close down all the physical buildings and just do everything online. Absolutely not. There will be some kind of hybrid ways of doing things in the future. And indeed, let us use the possibilities that are there about digitalization and make the best out of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Schulke-Eickholt, please, what are your messages for our participants?
Yeah, thank you. As the other speakers already mentioned, I think there are a lot of new possibilities now and a really wide space for innovation, but you really need initiative on your own and get in touch. That's what Mr. Weber said, really search personal contact. That can be via digital tools like mails, but try to get visible. I think there's a big danger of being lonely and invisible in this whole digital learning environment. So really be brave, search contact, and get in touch with all these actors in the university. And there are really a lot of possibilities you have on a German university to get in touch and to take part in things that are going on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much for all our panelists today and for your take-home messages. I would like to point out again that tomorrow there will be an online talk on global health research. On Wednesday, we will have a closer look at interdisciplinary research. And on Friday, our experts will provide practical tips on planning your research career in Germany. And the registration is still open. The recording of this online talk will be available shortly on the Research in Germany website. Additionally, we will provide a list with the links that were mentioned today. And the link to our website will be sent to you via email 1 hour after the event. And one tip, please check your spam folder when you're waiting for our email. At the end of this talk, we have prepared a little feedback questionnaire with 3 questions. We would be very grateful if you could stay with us for a few minutes longer and give us your feedback on today's webinar. This is really very, very interesting for us because we try to develop all our online talks and other seminars, and we want to be better and even more interesting for you. So your feedback is very, very valuable for us. Again, I would like to thank our panelists for their time today. It was really a pleasure to talk with all of you about the topic of digitalization in Germany and hear so many good news about what is happening right now here. And our participants, I would like to thank you for watching and hearing, and we hope we have answered at least some of your key issues on this topic. Goodbye from Bonn, and thank you very much.